Hey everyone, Rowan here at the New England Fly Company looking to share another guide fly pattern. So the hatches here in Maine have been few and far between, but one of the few that does keep breaking through is the very disparate midge hatch. So we've had a couple in our southern rivers so far this March, but as soon as the weather gets warm, we know these are going to start picking up and the black flies are going to be out in droves. So this Hail Mary Midge pattern is a go-to for when we see those hatches, and especially when nothing else has taken the trout's interest. When we're slinging streamers, when we're trying to work with wet flies, when we're ticking bottom with big stones, leeches. If we want to go small and try something very different, this as a trailer often succeeds where everything else fails. And the key to that is really in its size, its movement, and its contrast. So we often tie these in size 20 to 24, with 20 being probably the most common, with a notable wing case and a highly reflective and highly contrasting segmented body. So again, tied small, this pattern is really best fished on a slow retrieve, especially in still water, in short 2-inch spurts via a figure-8 retrieve. You can also use it as a wet fly trailer, allowing the line to tighten and rise quickly over where you think a fish is holding. And that just gives it the impression of a very fast pupating midge as it's shooting up through the water column. It creates some urgency, and oftentimes trout are really keying in on that sort of action. So this fly has particularly performed well in some of the heritage trout ponds at ice out here in Maine. And when you don't have a lot of rushing water, you don't have a lot of visual noise, it's much, much easier to see something like this looking natural moving through a water column. So for materials, we're going to start with a Fulling Mill FM1130. This is going to be a lightweight grub hook in bronze, size 20. Again, you can go down to 24 if you really want to, but oftentimes we've found that the 20 works just fine for something small. We're also going to be using a size 70 Denier Danville in black. We're going to be using a small opal mirage tinsel from UTC, and this is going to create the impression of some of those gas segments of the rising midge's body. And then we're also going to be using a single hurl of the strung hurl. And this is going to be an olive. You can also do something like yellow, red. Oftentimes those wing cases on these midges have a very different color. I'm also tempted at some point to try a gray. I've seen a lot of grayish wing cases, but I haven't been able to find a really effective peacock hurl in that color. All right, we're going to start by laying down our thread base. And because this is a very small fly, we don't have a lot of room to work. So we're going to keep every thread intentional and make sure that we're not using up too much space on this very, very small hook. So with the thread laid down, the next thing we're going to do is tie in some of our mirage tinsel. And you don't need at all a very big piece of this. Normally 3 or 4 inches is enough to tie all the flies that I'm going to need for that week. But something the length of your finger is probably good enough for a single sitting. So we're going to pull in, we're going to point it slightly away for ourselves. We're going to tie that in and spin our thread a little bit so that it catches that better. We're going to point it away from ourselves. There we go. Tie in that little piece, pull it even, and then start tying it all the way back down deep into that hook bend. So I like to go about halfway down for these to give myself a little bit more of that body to work with, because right about at that hook point is where we're going to tie in the peacock hurl. So you want to make sure you have enough of that hook shank dedicated to the body of that rising fly to offer a few high contrast, high reflective segments. So we'll leave our thread right about there. Again, we'll give it a little spin just to tighten up that thread, tie it back, here we go. And we're going to start wrapping this mirage tinsel in open spirals. So the idea is we want one segment to be reflective, one segment to be black thread, and vice versa. Or one segment to be reflective, one segment to be black, and alternate it that way. There we go. And a small carryover from all of the caddis patterns I've been tying recently is that toward the tail end of my flies, I tend to make the segments a little closer together. I'm not sure actually if that's the case with midge pupa, but I kind of assume it is. So we're gonna go ahead and tie that forward all the way up to the hook eye, and then we'll tie back over just to make sure that's secure. This is a very slippery material, and it's important to make sure that it is well anchored. All right, with that in, the next step is going to be to tie in our peacock hurl. So we're going to use a single strand of this, and we're going to use a bit that's much closer to the tip than you might otherwise. So often the tips of peacock hurl are very, very brittle. And that will still be true for this, which is why it's even more important to be very careful and very patient when tying this in. So we're going to try to tie this in just so the stem is up against the part of the hook that is on the tyer side. So closer to me rather than to the camera. We're going to very carefully capture that in. Tie it back, then we're going to leave our thread all the way up at the eye. And then we're going to begin by tying this peacock hurl away from us. This might take 5 or 6 wraps. Yep, just about 6. And we'll take that all the way up just to the tip. We'll capture that in with a couple wraps behind. And then what we're gonna do to really make sure that this stays where it is we're gonna form a little bit of a head right behind the eye with our thread. So we're gonna bend this, again, very fragile peacock hurl back. We're gonna make sure we can try to clean up any of those little bits toward the head. And using maybe 5 or 6 wraps, just fold it back on itself and then pull it to break it free, just like that. Now, if you have really good eyes, you can come in here with your thread and clean up some of those peacock hurl strands, but I also find that because they're so brittle, you can kind of run your nail over the hook eye and it'll clear those up just fine. So with this, we're gonna do our whip finish, 1, 2, 3. Seat that down. I'm going to do one more just to make sure it stays. 1, 2, 3. Pull it tight, but not too tight to break it. And the last thing to do is just snip that free. And there you go. We'll give this a little turn so you can see it in all its glory. But that is the Hail Mary Midge in a size 20. So thank you so much for watching. If you appreciated this content, please like, share, subscribe. And if you'd like to purchase this fly or some of our other available patterns, or you'd be interested in booking a New England fly fishing guided trip with us, you can always find us at newenglandfly.com. Tight lines, and we'll see you next time.